Chapter 5. Elira Thorn. Bram found the narrow trail behind the camp. No one important used it. It ran along the outer ditch, between thorn scrub and a line of pines too crooked for officers to admire. The ground was uneven, which made it useful. The camp yards were flat on purpose. Flat ground made everyone else's lessons look correct. Here, roots lifted under the needles. Stones hid under moss. Rainwater cut little channels where a careless boot would skid. He had come there 3 evenings in a row. The first time, he had only wanted a place where no one said proper. The second time, he had brought the axe. His hands felt wrong without its weight. The third time, he had begun to understand that he was not practicing so much as remembering himself. Camp stripped people down and dressed them again in pieces the army approved of. Boat, number, weapon, rank. If the gods or families had been generous, the ditch path gave him roots, mud, awkward branches, things that did not care what a lieutenant preferred. So Bram set his feet, took the axe in both hands, and swung at nothing. Not chopping, not fighting, just movement. Step, turn, hook, pull. He had started adding little tests. Repetition without work made him restless. A hanging branch became a rope caught under load. A half-buried stone became the lip of a stump that needed prying free. A root crossing the path became a tripline he had to step over without looking down. He moved from one to the next, until the axe stopped feeling like an answer and became a question again. What are you for here? Not the village, not the high slope, not the clean stroke into split wood while Mira complained he was taking too long, and Tobin claimed every log had a personal grudge. Here, in an army that thought the axe was either a joke, a tool, or a problem to be corrected into a sword, he imagined a branch hung wrong, a rope snagged, a boar turning in brush. Anything but the officer's voice saying proper weapon, and the sword girl's eyes measuring his axe like a mistake someone had carried too far.
Your right shoulder rises before you move.
Bram nearly put the axe through a pine. The elf girl stood 5 paces. Behind him, one hand resting on the plain sword at her hip. She had been in the yard before, he thought. Not laughing. Watching. Her hair was tied back tight enough that rain had nowhere to cling. Her coat was Von Mark green but altered at the cuffs, stitched for reach instead of show.
Do people in this army breathe before appearing? Or is that for common folk?
You breathe loudly enough for both of us.
He lowered the axe.
If you came to tell me it's not a sword, I know.
Good. That saves time.
She stepped onto the trail and looked down, not at his face, but at his boots. Bram noticed. He was usually the one doing that.
Again.
No.
Then keep dying in practice.
His grip tightened.
I haven't died once.
You have died 6 times since I started watching. The officers were too busy insulting you to notice.
That should have made him angrier than it did. Bram set himself again. Step. Turn. Hook. Pull.
There.
She pointed.
Your shoulder is rising first.
It's how I get weight behind it.
It tells an enemy where the weight is going.
Trees don't care.
An enemy mage will.
The word sat between them like a drawn blade. Bram looked away first. Beyond the ditch, morning mist dragged through the pines. For one foolish instant, the camp smelled like home. Damp needles, cold bark, wet soil. Then someone shouted from the yard and the spell broke. The elf girl moved closer.
You're not wrong with that.
He blinked.
With what?
With the axe.
He had been ready for mockery. Ready for noble patience. Ready even for the kind of pity that made his hands itch. Not that. She drew her sword. The motion was quiet. No flourish. The blade came free like water leaving a cup.
Your village taught you to solve weight, leverage, grain, bad footing, panic. Those are real. But you show every answer before you ask the question.
Bram looked at the sword despite himself.
And you don't?
She shifted one foot, nothing else. The sword point was suddenly under his guard, close enough to touch the knot on his axe haft. Bram's stomach went cold.
Less often.
He swallowed.
Again.
This time he did not say no. She corrected him by inches. Not gently. Never gently. She tapped his elbow with the flat of her blade when it lifted, nudged his foot when it trusted a root too much. Once she stepped inside his swing and put 2 fingers against his wrist before he knew she had moved. The corrections piled up until his body could not decide which part of itself to be ashamed of first. Shoulder. Wrist. Back foot. Breath. Shoulder again. Always shoulder. He had thought strength meant making the axe obey no matter what stood in front of it. Elira made him hold back, until holding back trembled through his arms worse than hauling a wet trunk uphill. She made him stop halfway through a turn and name where his weight had gone. She made him repeat one small hook until the muscles under his ribs cramped. No one in Alderfall had ever taught like this. Village work corrected people by dropping things on them or not. Elira corrected before the fall. She did not only correct the axe. When his boot slid, she made him say why.
Because of the mud.
Too broad.
Water under the needles.
And what else?
I trusted the flat patch.
Why did you trust it?
Bram glared at the ground.
It looked easy.
Battle likes that.
When his breath caught, she made him stop. Not to spare him. Every mistake after a bad breath taught the wrong lesson. That was what she said. Anyway. Bram suspected she also knew when his ribs were close to cramping and chose not to let him find out by folding over in front of half the camp. Once, Dane wandered past and slowed to watch.
Is this supposed to be training? Or is she teaching the axe manners?
She is doing both.
Can she do me next?
You lack the raw material.
Dane put a hand over his heart.
Else cruelty. We were warned.
Elira did not smile. Bram did, which ruined his next turn and earned him the flat of her sword against his elbow.
Start the turn again.
The word should have made him hate her. It did not. Not completely.
If I wanted to hit you, you would be bleeding.
If I wanted to drop a tree on you, you'd be flat.
For the first time, a dry breath escaped her, quick enough to vanish under the rain.
Then learn when you're in a forest and when you're not.
Bram breathed through his nose. His shoulder hurt from holding back. Holding back was harder than swinging.
What's your name?
My name is Elira Thorn.
Bram Alder.
I know.
Of course she did. Everyone knew the woodcutter joke by now. Elira looked past him to the camp, where smoke rose from cook fires and recruits pretended not to stare from the far yard.
You look toward the mountain whenever someone laughs.
Bram's face warmed.
No, I don't.
You also lie badly.
I look 'cause sound carries that way.
Does it?
Good.
Does sound carry that way?
He looked at the ridge despite himself. The mountain line beyond camp was lower than Alderfall's, rounder, less honest about the weather. It did not have the broken tooth of Widow's Peak or the crooked pine that pointed toward the charcoal pits. It was not home. It only had the nerve to be shaped like distance.
Sometimes I think if I look fast enough,
He said before he could stop himself.
I'll catch the road turning back.
Elira's expression did not soften in the way people softened when they had decided to be kind. It steadied.
And if it does?
I run.
With your shoulder high.
The answer was so unfair that he laughed once, short and startled.
You're terrible at comfort.
Yes, I am.
There was no apology in it. That helped. He expected her to smile then. She did not. Her eyes stayed on the ridge, and for a moment there was something in them, older than the camp, older than the road that had brought him here.
Try the turn again.
But her voice had changed. Bram lifted the axe. This time, when his shoulder rose, he felt it before she had to tell him. Rain turned the camp boundary ditch into a brown ribbon by evening. Bram found shelter under the lean-to where broken targets were stacked for repair. It smelled of wet straw, split boards, and old paint. He sat on an upturned crate and worked oil into the axe haft with the corner of his sleeve. The wood had taken too much rain during morning practice. If he ignored it, the grain would swell near the wedge.
You treat it better than the quartermaster treats our boots.
Elira stood at the edge of the shelter, rain silver on her shoulders. Bram kept rubbing oil into the haft.
My axe has never given me boots with holes in them.
A loyal tool.
Tools are loyal if you don't ask them to be something else.
She stepped inside and leaned against the post, leaving space between them. Bram appreciated that. Most people in camp filled silence by standing too close or talking too much. For a while, the rain did the talking. Elira did not sit until she had checked the lean-to corners, the gap behind the broken targets, and the path back to the yard. She made it look like stillness, but Bram had begun to notice that her stillness had order inside it. First exits, then hands, then ground, then him.
You always count ways out?
Yes, I always count ways out.
Even under a target roof?
Especially under a target roof.
He looked at the stacked boards behind him. They were painted with circles and old arrow scars.
Arrows?
Shelter makes people relax.
That's not an answer.
It is the answer I have.
He went back to oiling the haft. Prying harder would only make the silence brittle. The wood drank the oil unevenly where rain had raised the grain. He worked along it with his thumb, until the roughness settled. Elira watched the motion the way she watched footwork, not intruding, not missing anything.
You learned that from your family?
From everyone. If a handle splits in winter, nobody says, "Ah, well, Bram lacked formal instruction." They say, "Bram, why did you leave the haft wet? Are you trying to lose fingers?"
A precise curriculum.
With shouting.
All effective teaching contains some.
Across the yard, Dane and two other recruits ran bent double through the downpour, laughing rather than swearing. Someone had hung wet socks from a spear rack. The chaplain's tent glowed with soft blue hearth light, cleaner and steadier than any honest flame. The light made the puddles look expensive. Bram had seen plenty of fire in his life. Cook fires, charcoal pits, storm-struck branches burning green and bitter in the rain. Honest fire smoked, spat, needed feeding, and made people gather close enough to knock elbows. The hearthstone glow sat inside the chaplain's tent without appetite. No woodpile. No soot. No one waking. Before dawned a split kindling from old damp ash. He should have admired it. Instead, it made his hands feel useless.
Low city trick.
Elira followed his gaze.
You mean the hearthstone.
Makes people think wood is old-fashioned until they need a bridge, a wagon, a handle, a roof beam, or a coffin.
That is a long list.
I was being polite.
This time she did smile, barely. It was gone so quickly he might have invented it. Except he wanted to believe he had not. The rain thickened. It drummed on the lean-to roof and blurred the camp lights. Bram thought of Alderfall's storehouse. of Mira counting billets, of Ren pretending not to limp, Thorn telling everyone the clever rabbit had attacked his coat. He rubbed harder at the haft.
You will wear through the wood.
It can take it.
That was not what I meant.
He stopped. The silence after that was not comfortable. It was not unfriendly either. It sat beside them like a third person with sense enough not to interrupt.
Alder is a tree name.
Elira said after the silence.
Thorn is a tree name too.
Thorn is what people remember after they stop seeing the flower.
Bram looked at her.
That's supposed to mean something?
Probably.
Do all elves talk like that?
Her hand went still on the hilt of her sword. Not a flinch. Less than a flinch. Enough that Bram wished he could pull the question back.
No, and not all humans ask like that to mean harm.
I didn't.
I know.
The rain covered the next breath. Bram turned the axe across his knees.
There were elves in the raid?
Maybe there were.
You'd tell me if you knew?
Elira looked out at the rain.
If knowing helped you live.
That was not an answer. It was better than one. After a while she said,
Where I was born, there was a grove with white bark trees. My mother said they remembered every name spoken under them.
Bram waited.
The realm cut half of them down when the village stopped saying the approved names.
The words were even. That made them worse.
Your village?
Elira's eyes stayed on the rain.
It was my village once.
The lean-to roof dripped between them. One drop struck the edge of a broken target, ran down a painted circle and fell into the mud. Bram thought about asking who had ordered it. Thought about asking whether she had watched. Thought about asking how a village stopped being yours while you still remembered where the paths went. All the questions felt like taking. So he turned the axe and showed her the narrow pale scar near the wedge.
This was from my first winter felling alone. Not alone. Ren was there, pretending not to be. I hit bad, jumped, wedge loosened. Ren made me reset it in snow with my hands too cold to feel shame.
Elira looked at the scar.
Did you?
Feel shame?
Reset it.
Yes.
Then it was a useful winter.
The answer was so like her that he almost smiled. Then he realized she had accepted the offered memory without trading more than she wanted. Not pushing. Not closing. Just setting it beside her own once and letting both remain. The word was so small it made room around itself. Bram thought of all the times adults in Olderfall had said once, before starting stories that still had laughter in them. Once, Ren had trapped his own boot under a sledge. Once, Mira had put pepper in the festival cakes after Tobin dared her. Once, Bram had tried to climb a pine in the thunderstorm and earned 3 kinds of shouting. Elira's once had no laughter waiting. Behind it, he did not know what to do with his hands. They were too big, too rough, too alive around the axe haft. He thought of Alderfall smoke vanishing behind trees. He thought of names cut out of bark, out of mouths, out of people. His own homesickness shifted, not smaller, but less alone.
I'm sorry.
Elira pushed away from the post.
Don't be sorry during a fight. It slows the hands.
We're not in a fight.
You're in an army.
She stepped back into the rain. Before he could ask whose names had been cut from the grove, or whether any of them were still alive to remember her, Bram sat with the axe across his knees, until the oil soaked in and the hearthstone light across the yard blurred into blue through the rain. Picket duty was mostly listening to trees refuse to be interesting. The north edge of camp sat under wet pines where the ditch ended and the real forest began. Bram stood with his cloak pulled tight, axe half tucked under one arm to keep rain from running down into the wedge. The cold had found a clever path through his sleeves and was working on his ribs. Elira stood 5 paces away, still enough that rain seemed to decide around her.
Do you ever shift your feet?
Yes, sometimes.
When?
When I need to.
Useful answer.
Useful question.
He smiled despite the cold. Behind them, 2 soldiers passed along the inner path carrying a lantern hooded in blue glass. One looked at Brahm, then at Elira, then away too quickly. Realm eyes on the north post. The man muttered. Not loud, not quite enough. Bram's grip tightened around the axe. Elira did not turn. Bram had heard insults in camp every day since arriving. Woodcutter, ox, peasant tool, shovel boy. Most of them landed on parts of him he already knew were visible. They stung, but they did not confuse him. Realm eyes was different. It reached for Elira through a door she had already fled and tried to lock her inside again. It made her Vanmark coat. Her sword, her stillness, her corrections, all of it smaller than the shape of her ears to a man who did not know her name. He had seen it in smaller ways all week. Men who trusted her blade in drill and then moved their cups when she sat near the common fire. A quartermaster who called her Thorn when assigning danger and called her the elf when assigning blame. A wounded recruit who had thanked her for binding his arm. Then asked whether realm hands knew how to pray over human blood. Elira never seemed surprised. That was the part Bram hated most. Bram's anger rose before the axe did.
He means you.
I had gathered.
You going to let him?
He is cold, frightened, and very impressed with himself. Answering would improve only the last part.
The soldiers disappeared into the dark. Bram kept staring after them until the pines swallowed the lantern.
Vanmark isn't your home either.
Elira's eyes stayed on the tree line.
It is a uniform. Those are sometimes mistaken for homes by people who have not lost both.
The watch went quiet after that. The forest breathed damp into their faces. Somewhere beyond the ditch, water dripped from branch to branch with the slow patience of someone counting. Bram thought of Alderfall's night sounds, Mira latching the goat shed, Ren coughing smoke from his lungs, Tobin inventing emergencies to avoid sleep. Camp was too large to make those sounds. It groaned and clanked and muttered in 100 little pieces, never becoming one place.
My brother hated watch duty.
Bram did not move.
He said forests became smug after midnight. As if they knew something and wanted praise for keeping it. Sounds wise. He was not.
The words were dry, but not empty. She shifted her weight then, barely, putting more of herself between Bram and the dark ditch. He did not think she meant him to notice. That was becoming a strange kind of trust between them. She corrected his obvious mistakes, and he tried not to embarrass her by naming the quiet protections. The wind moved through the pines. Bram smelled wet resin and old leaf rot. It took him a moment to understand why his chest had tightened. The smell was close to the ridge above Alderfall after rain, where he and Tobin had checked snares, before dawn and lied about not being afraid of bear sign. Homesickness did not arrive like sadness. It arrived like scent and then used the whole body. Elira seemed to know. She did not look at him when she spoke again.
He used to change the old procession hymns. Badly. Loudly. If the elders sang of patient branches, he made the branches trip over roots. If they sang of faithful rivers, he made the rivers steal washing from priests.
Bram bit back a laugh and lost. It came out small enough not to carry. Elira's mouth shifted in the dark.
You had someone like that?
Tobin. He put a pig in a harvest song and got chased by 3 aunties with ladles.
Did the pig deserve it?
The pig was the best part.
For a moment, the cold became something they stood inside together rather than separately. Then a branch cracked beyond the ditch. Bram turned too fast. Elira's hand was already on his shoulder. Not hard. 2 fingers.
Keep the axe down.
He realized his grip had locked, the haft clicking once against his coat buckle. Before the axe moved, heat flooded his face despite the cold.
I heard it.
So did everything else.
They waited. Another crack, smaller. Then, a fox slipped between the roots, pale underbelly catching what little light the clouds allowed. It paused, offended by the existence of soldiers, then vanished. Bram let out the breath he had been holding.
Dead 6 times?
7 times.
Foxes don't count.
Foxes count better than recruits.
He nearly laughed again, stopped when he heard footsteps behind them. The same soldier with the blue lantern had returned, alone this time. He stopped when Elira looked at him. Relief in the half an hour, he said. His tone had gone formal. Embarrassed, maybe. Or still cold. Command says no fires north ditch.
Understood. No fires north ditch.
He hesitated. Didn't mean anything. That was a lie badly built. Elira inclined her head.
Then spend less effort saying it.
The man left faster than he had come. Bram stared.
That's letting him off?
No. That is making him carry his own sentence.
He won't.
Not tonight.
Then what's the point?
Elira looked into the forest.
If I answer every insult, men will say I am proof of what they feared. If I answer none, some will think silence means consent. There is no clean angle. So I choose the one that keeps my hands free.
Bram had no answer to that either. He was discovering that the army was full of traps no axe could hook.
Do all elves talk like that?
He regretted it the instant the old question came back. Elira looked at him. And in the dark her face was less guarded than it had been under the lean-to.
No, my mother spoke plainly enough to frighten officials.
The air changed around the memory. Bram did not ask her name. He wanted to. He had learned not to take every offered thread and pull until it broke.
Mine mostly frightens goats.
An honest profession.
Their relief came late. By then Bram's hands had gone stiff, and his shoulder ached from being corrected. Before every startle. As they walked back toward camp, Elira touched the place once more. Brief as rain striking skin.
You felt it before I spoke that time.
Did I?
Don't become proud. You were still slow.
Wouldn't dream of it.
But he carried the words back through the sleeping camp like a coal hidden in both hands. At the edge of the tents, they passed the chapel line where the hearthstones had gone low for the night. 2 blessed recruits slept near the warmth with dry cloaks folded under their heads. A common boy dozed sitting upright beside the woodpile, axe across his knees, waiting to be shaken awake for the next fire watch. Bram slowed his steps.
He will wake with a crick in his neck.
He'll wake warmer than if the fire dies.
She looked at him then, not with pity, not with approval. Recognition, maybe. The kind that did not make either person less alone, but made loneliness easier to stand without speaking.
Sleep when you can.
You?
When I need to?
Useful answer.
This time in the dark he was almost certain she smiled. Elira made Bram clean the axe after drills even when it was not dirty.
It is always dirty.
It's oiled.
Oil can hold grit.
So can people. Do you scrape them too?
When assigned.
They sat under the crooked pines beyond the ditch path. Out of the worst of the camp wind, Bram had a rag, a tin of oil, and a temper that had been worn smooth by too many repetitions to catch fire properly. Elira sat across from him with her sword laid over her knees, cleaning the fuller with a strip of linen so white it made the mud look personally offended. He watched how she worked. No wasted motion. No softness either. She cleaned the sword like a duty, not a prayer. Yet when the cloth passed near a tiny nick above the guard, her fingers slowed. The sword itself was plain. Until a person knew where to look. Not noble plain. which meant expensive things pretending humility. Soldier plane. The grip had been rewrapped twice. The guard bore a thin scratch where another blade had kissed it hard. Near the pommel, under the leather, Bram saw a darker line where old cord had stained the metal.
Did it come from the realm?
Elira's cloth kept moving.
Yes, it came from the realm.
You kept it?
It was mine before they decided what mine meant.
That sounded like a door with a bar across it. Bram nodded and looked back at his axe. The axe had no mystery to anyone who knew work. A broad head, reset wedge, half darkened by hand oil and weather. Ren had helped him choose the ash for it. Mira had said it looked too long for him, and then, when he grew into it, claimed she had meant emotionally. Tobin had carved a tiny crooked mark near the butt one summer and blamed beetles. Bram turned the haft until the mark faced his palm.
Ford?
She glanced up.
The nick. Before Vandmark.
He waited. She returned to cleaning. Usually that meant the door had shut. This time, after 3 long passes of the cloth, she said,
My brother put it there with a kitchen poker.
Bram almost laughed, then saw her face.
On purpose?
He claimed the sword looked too proud.
Did it?
Yes, it looked proud.
Her mouth softened for a beat, then went guarded again. Bram cleaned the axe head more carefully.
Tobin once hammered a nail into Ren's best saw handle. Said tools should learn pain too.
Was he punished?
Ren made him sand it smooth with a thumbnail-sized scrap until supper.
A fair court.
Cruel. Effective.
The camp noise drifted from beyond the pines, shouts, cartwheels, someone cursing a mule with impressive invention. Here, the world narrowed to oil, metal, damp needles, and the comfortable discomfort of sitting with someone who did not need every silence filled. Elira took a small whetstone from her pouch and set it beside the sword, but did not use it yet.
You carry 3.
Yes, I carry 3.
Why?
They are for different work.
Stones are stones.
She looked at his axe.
Fine. Stones are not stones.
For reasons he could not explain, that pleased her more than most correct movements had. She picked up the smallest whetstone, no longer than 2 of Bram's fingers, and held it on her palm.
This one was my mother's.
The words sat between them, quiet as the oil tin. Bram did not reach for it. He knew better than that with tools. Some things could be shown without being offered.
She fought?
No, she carved combs, prayer tokens, toy animals for children who had not earned anything better.
Elira rubbed her thumb once over the stone's edge.
She said every blade in a village eventually came to her anyway. Soldiers are vain about sharpness and farmers are practical.
Sounds smart.
She was.
Elira set the stone down carefully and took the longer one instead. Bram heard the missing part. He thought of Mira mending his strap by lamplight. Of Ren's hand stopping before it reached his shoulder. Of Tobin's ugly, clever rabbit in his pack. He wondered if one day he would talk about them in the past tense. A war-deciding grammar for him. The thought made his hands tighten on the axe. Elira noticed. Of course she did.
Don't hold the living like they're already dead.
Bram looked up. Her face gave nothing away.
It makes you careless with the day in front of you.
He wanted to ask whether she had learned that before or after losing them. He knew better. Bram tried the shoulder lift again. Silence made his hands want work. Just the first inch. Elira did not look up.
Too fast.
You didn't look.
I heard the haft scrape your sleeve.
That's cheating.
That is listening.
He tried again. Slower. The axe rose a finger's width and stopped. His shoulder wanted to climb. He made it stay. The effort crawled down his back.
Better?
He almost ruined it by smiling too obviously.
Do you ever say good?
When something is good?
Cruel. Effective.
This time, the corner of her mouth moved.
Do you miss him?
Elira's cloth stopped. He nearly apologized. Then she answered.
Every day. Not always with sadness. That is sometimes worse.
Bram did not understand at first. Then he thought of Tobin's cursed turnip king and laughed once through his nose. The laugh hurt. It belonged to home.
Yes.
Elira looked at him then, and for a moment he felt she had trusted him with the answer. He had not tried to make it larger. She nodded toward the axe.
Take up the axe again.
Cleaning?
Your shoulder moved again.
We are sitting down.
Your elbow flared when you asked.
Bram stared at her.
That is unfair.
Combat rarely asks permission to be fair.
He groaned, set the axe across his knees, and practiced the first inch of a lift while seated under wet pines beside an elf girl cleaning a sword nicked by a brother who had thought proud things needed humbling. It took longer than it should have. The movement was almost nothing. He had spent his life learning how to put more of himself into work, more back into a pull, more leg into a climb, more grip when rain made bark slick. Elira kept asking for less. Less warning, less pride, less proof in the shoulder. Before the axe had earned it, less was exhausting. By the time she let him stop, the camp had gone from noisy to low. Fires muttered. Someone sang 2 lines of a marching song and abandoned it. A mule objected to existence near the wagon line. Elira wrapped her sword and stood.
Tomorrow, you will hate me.
Only tomorrow?
Tomorrow in particular.
Why?
I'm going to make you repeat this while tired.
Bram looked at the axe across his knees. At the tiny crooked mark Tobin had carved. At the oil dark under his thumbnail. At the first inch of lift that somehow contained an entire battlefield, if Elira was to be believed.
Good, then.
She looked at him. He shrugged, keeping the right shoulder down on purpose.
If I'm gonna hate you, might as well be for something useful.
Elira shook her head once, but not like she disapproved. It was ridiculous. It mattered.